So it's like we're like an hour, right? Running an hour
Like,
behind. Yep.
exactly.
Okay.
Um, all right. So, like I said, for everyone here, thank you so much for joining. It is a privilege to be sharing with you today a little bit about food waste and its important role in regenerative practices. My name is Corinne Nicole Rivera. I'm coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And what you see in front of you right now is a photo of food waste from a drop-off location in Union Square. So I want to pose to you the question of, what if I told you that part of the solution to global warming lived within your kitchen, right? That sounds a little confusing. But what if that same thing was able to draw down carbon from the atmosphere, save water, and create energy all in one? Well, that's exactly what food waste has the power and capability of doing. And that's what we're going to be going over today. So, composting your food waste is beneficial for a multitude of reasons, but the primary ones are when you compost. That's the practice of taking your food waste out of the garbage. What that does is it diverts it from going to landfill, where at landfill it would decompose without oxygen and release methane into the atmosphere. So when we compost out our food waste, you're preventing that toxic gas from going and polluting and making our planet a little bit warmer. The second beneficial component is that when we compost our food waste, it becomes a soil supplement, something that restores our soil and allows it to draw down carbon from the atmosphere. And the third and kind of more unknown component about food waste is that it can actually be transformed into a biogas, a fossil fuel alternative. And we're going to be going through all of this in a lot more detail. But I just want to let you know that all of this is happening and possible right now, and is something that you, at the end of this talk, can start implementing in your day-to-day life. So I want us to first think about our first interactions with food waste. For most of us, it was seeing some mold on some raspberries, maybe cheese or bread, or maybe you found that leftover stuffed in the back of your fridge for 6 months accidentally. Either way you open it up, it's disgusting, it smells gross, it looks gross, and you want to get it as far away from you as possible, and you throw it in the garbage, right? So this is kind of our collective emotional response to food waste. And it's actually the hindrance that we need to get over to really embrace composting as a whole. So, when we take our food waste and we make it into compost, like I mentioned, that helps rehabilitate the soil. Now, there's a huge difference between soil. Interesting, this little doodle here that just appeared. Can someone draw on my presentation? That's pretty cool. Anyways, so there's a difference between soil and dirt. They're not the same things at all. Soil is alive. It has tons of microbes, fungi, worms, ecosystems inside. Dirt is completely dead. It's lifeless. It doesn't hold water. It doesn't hold carbon. In fact, it releases carbon into the atmosphere. Now, soil is caused usually from monocropping, planting the same thing over and over again and not giving the soil enough time to regenerate and renourish itself. So soil erosion creates dirt, dirt releases carbon into the atmosphere, which we all know warms our planet. So it's a big, big, big no-no. But what I want people to remember is that our soil is the largest carbon sink on the entire planet. You can think about soil as the rainforest to the prairies, right? So soil has the potential, healthy soil has the potential to sequester more carbon and reverse global warming, has, that capacity more so than all the rainforests in the world, right? So if we utilized compost and regenerative practices and potentially restored all of the Earth's dirt into soil, we could draw down enough carbon from the atmosphere to bring us down to safe pre-industrial levels. And that's pretty incredible. So remember that when you're adding your food waste to the garbage, you're not only adding to the problem of potentially releasing methane gas into the atmosphere, but you're missing out on benefits that can actually help save our planet. So, what does it mean to have composting be a key element in regenerative farming? So, regenerative farming seeks to do a couple of things. One, increase biodiversity, enrich soil, improve watersheds, as well as support living ecosystems. Now, we spoke a little bit about the importance of healthy soil, but improving watersheds is also a main component. Now, what improving watersheds really means is when you have healthy soil, it's able to absorb and retain water. Now, this helps in supporting with climate resiliency, right? When the ground is able to absorb water, that means when the temperatures rise and there's a potential for drought, then that water is, a little bit more prepared to withstand that time of dryness. Similarly, if we have a region that's next to a coastal area and it has the potential to flood, the soil is able to absorb it. Dirt is not able to do that, and it really creates a kind of catastrophic mess. So, supporting ecosystems. I'm mentioning that composting is such an important part of farming. Well, then what does it mean when we don't compost, right? Can we still grow food? Yes, we can. But what happens is that we're then forced to use synthetic fertilizers or chemicals. And this is actually what defines our industrial agriculture. So when you think about what pesticides really are, they're in order to kill pests. Now, some pests we actually need. We need them very desperately, like bees, right? So imagine bees are flying around, they're doing their thing, they're pollinating flowers, but when they engage with a crop that's been sprayed with Roundup, Monsanto, a multitude of other herbicides and pesticides, they're rubbing against these crops and then their skin absorbs the chemicals. And this is leading to a massive bee death, right? Another example of this type of ecological collapse is when you start putting synthetic fertilizers into the ground, it essentially kills everything in there. And as I mentioned before, soil is alive. It has all of these micro insects in it, microbials. And so when you kill all of those microorganisms, you're killing a food source, right? Those microorganisms feed insects, really small microscopic insects that feed bigger insects, that feed the worms, that feed the birds, and so on up the food chain. So when you disrupt that initial point of food, you're completely messing with the entire food chain. And we're very much dependent on those ecosystems. So again, regenerative farming is the opposite of that. By taking your food waste, utilizing it for compost, increasing the biodiversity, and supporting ecosystems, you're actually doing our planet a big favor. Right? To be or not to be. So there's a rather drastic statistic that I would like to share with you, which is that the UN projects that we only have 60 more years of mining our soil, right? 60 more years of industrial agriculture. So what does that mean? That means that we only have 60 more harvests left, right? After that, what kind of inorganic food are we going to be subjecting our future generations to, right? What are we going to do when we don't have any more bees around to help us pollinate? So these are really important things that I want us to consider, because if I can drive home any point, it's that at home right now, you have the potential to separate your food waste and engage in this part of regenerative practices. So what happens when we don't food waste? When we don't compost? So our food waste actually then gets mixed in with all of our other garbage and it gets sent to a landfill. Now I know I'm talking to a global crowd right now, but this is typically how it goes. So when our trash bags get sent to the landfill, right, they're mixed in with everything. And then they begin to topple one on top of the other up into the thousands. So then we have these trash bags that are stuck below, right? And that food waste then begins to decompose. Now, when you have food that decomposes without oxygen, it creates methane gas. That methane gas then starts to seep up all through the piles and releases into the atmosphere. Now, I'm sure you might have heard that methane gas is more potent than CO2, and that's accurate. And there have been some mixed numbers here or there. Some people say it's 28 times as potent. Other people say that it's 84 times as potent. So which is it? When scientists talk about the potency level of gases, they call it a GWP, global warming potential. Now, historically, scientists have looked at 100-year time scale of how a gas is compared to CO2. Now, the thing is, methane gas lasts in our atmosphere for about 12 years versus carbon dioxide that lasts in our atmosphere for thousands and thousands of years, steadily warming our planet. So because methane gas has a shorter lifespan of 12 years, it does most of its warming very early on. So when we're looking at a time scale of not 100 years, but of 20 years, methane gas is actually 84 times as potent, and that's significant. So just think about how many hundreds of thousands of pounds of food waste are sent to the landfill, right? And it's a missed opportunity to not have that either enrich our soil or be turned into a biogas. Now, the process of our food waste being turned into a biogas is called anaerobic digestion. Anaerobic digestion requires a facility that takes that food waste and puts it into a sealed chamber. Now, similarly to our food waste decomposing inside a landfill, releasing methane gas, it does the same thing within the facility, except this time we capture it. And that process of capturing that the process of capturing that methane gas is what turns into a biogas. A biogas can be used for electricity, heat, or any other gas grid utility, and is a wonderful fossil fuel alternative. So again, just to drive it home, when we remove our food waste from our garbage, we're preventing methane gas, which is a harmful pollutant, 84 times as potent as carbon dioxide. We can turn it into a soil rehabilitator, right? Which helps plants' roots grow deep, helping us sequester more carbon from the atmosphere. Or we can, extend the yield of food waste, extend the, valuability of it by turning it into a methane gas. So I wanna speak a little bit about how food waste is actually, just want to check time, how food waste is actually created, right? We usually think of it as food waste that's coming from the home, but it can also come from industry, right? We have this huge statistic of we waste 40% of our global food. How does that happen? So on an industry standpoint, typically what happens is food waste is often, food is priced too low. So it de-incentivizes farmers from either using heavy machinery, hiring people to harvest that food. So they let it sit in the fields, rot, which creates methane gas as well. But the more important aspect is that food is perfectly good to eat and it doesn't get eaten. Secondly, there are people's jobs that work within produce facilities where they spot on conveyor belts vegetables, fruit that are misshapen, that are ugly, deemed unsuitable for our perfect consumer demands. So if anything kind of, doesn't look perfect, if it has a blemish on it, they remove it and it gets wasted there. And unfortunately, this is true, right? I'm sure you've been at the grocery store. There's one broccoli left and you think, oh my God, there's probably something wrong with it. I'm not going to take it. Or it has a little, dirt on it. And you're like, oh, I don't know what that is. So this, we partake in that stigma as well. Similarly, restaurants are constantly over ordering. They are so afraid of being running out of anything and disappointing their customers. Grocery stores, they have these arbitrary sell by and best by dates. Here in the United States, the FDA only mandates one expiration date on food, and that's for infant formula. Everything else is purely voluntary, and this actually creates a lot of confusion for consumers. So what you hear and see videos of dumpster divers going in the back of grocery stores, opening up dumpsters and having perfectly good organic yogurts and whole dumpsters filled with hummus. So, this plays a big part of food waste as well. And finally, we have our home. So about 2/3 of all the food we bring home, we then end up wasting. So just to, kind of visualize that, imagine every time you go to the grocery store, you leave with 4 bags. And then when you leave the grocery store and you're walking home, you drop one and you just keep walking. So this is the equivalent of what we're doing. And part of the reason is improper food storage. So I'm going to go over quickly some tips, right? So make sure that your refrigerator is at 40 degrees or colder. That way the bacteria will slow in, decomposing your food. Similarly, organize your refrigerator. Know what's in your refrigerator, right? If you can't see it, you simply won't eat it, right? If it's not common practice for you to take inventory of your refrigerator before you leave, try and habit stack. If you have your reusable, grocery store bags, great. Try and take a mental note. Okay, I'm grabbing my bag. Let me check what's in the fridge, because I'm sure you've had the experience of going to the grocery store and coming back and being like, oh wait, I already had tomatoes, and now I have to either make a pasta sauce, and then you go away for 2 days and you come back and it's all rotting. These are all very preventable. So make sure that whatever needs to get eaten stays in the front. Similarly, food storage, just some reminders, right? Bread and meat, 2 things that have very long shelf lives when they're frozen, right? Bread will get moldy in a couple of days. So take a couple of slices out, leave it for sandwiches, for quick things, and then the rest of it can go in the freezer. It'll be good for 6 to 9 months. Meat in the freezer, good for at best. It's at its best for 9 to 12 months. It is safe to eat forever. So take that for what it is. Similarly, different types of lettuces, you want to put those in the drawers, damp spaces, any sort of basil, herbs, things of that nature. Leave them on the countertop, just like freshly cut flowers. Put them in a little bit of water. They'll last a lot longer. So in the interest of time, because that has a plethora of information on proper food storage, but just kind of keep that in mind. I want to go over some high level composting, right? Again, tons of resources online that can tell you what to compost and how. I really wanted the focus of this to be about the benefits of composting, not necessarily on how to do it. But some high level things are: 1, identify what's available to you, right? What kind of facility is around you? Is it a community compost garden? Is it a city program? Because that's really important. So that's really going to determine what you can and cannot compost, right? City Someone is not on mute and is making some noise, but anyways, if you're composting at home or taking it to a small community garden, you're not going to be able to compost meat saturated in oil. And the reason for that is the compost pile simply won't get hot enough. It won't break it down. So know what kind of facility you're working with and take it from there. As a high level kind of, tip, anything that came from the ground can go back to the ground, right? So you just want to be mindful of, on your produce, take out the little plastic ties, take out the stickers. Those things are plastic. They have chemicals in it. They won't decompose. Also, you know, like you, I'll end by giving everyone my information. I'd be happy to walk through anyone who wants to know more about composting. Here in New York, something very sad because of COVID, all of our public composting has been shut down. I can share a petition on how, you know, appealing to city council. I'm in communication with a couple members right now, but basically they're trying to save $21 million in our city budget to shut down the brown bin, which is our city collection, but they're also suspending NGOs and smaller food drop-off sites, organizations that have been existing for 70 plus years, helping us with our food waste. So as it stands right now, if you're not composting at home with worms, which I'm happy to share with anyone what that's like. It's a really interesting, beautiful cycle. Right now, we don't have anything available to us, which is really sad. So just know, you know, what's available now due to COVID. But you know, in the interest of time, I only have about 10 more minutes, and I wanted to answer some questions as well. So I just want to say, you know, support regenerative agriculture, right? People have this, you know, notion of, oh, you know, hamburgers and meat, they're really the problem. Well, it's, you know, yes, eating a lot of meat it probably isn't the best, but know where the meat is coming from, right? Factory farms contribute to chemical agriculture, not a good thing. A regenerative farm where cows are eating grass, what they're supposed to be eating, they're near the crops that are growing the fruits and vegetables. They're dropping manure, they have their saliva, their urine. All of that creates this beautiful mix of micronutrients that actually help, again, have trees, plants grow their roots deeper down and are able to sequester more carbon, right? So these types of farms, supporting them actually helps with global warming. So when you're in the, you know, either your farmer's market, Whole Foods, whatever market's available to you, keep an eye out for anything that says grass-fed, anything that is humanely or sustainably raised. There's a lot of different certificates that you can keep an eye out for. Obviously, shop within your means, but get organic. Look for non-GMO things. Otherwise, that's just a sure way to know that your food was sprayed with chemicals. The way that that food was created was industrial agriculture, which is very harsh on our soil. If we deplete our soil, we don't have a means to, you know, eat food. And it really just creates this stress on our planetary boundaries. So, you know, I just want to kind of close by saying, you know, let's bring a little bit more mindfulness to our food. When you sit down and you have a beautiful meal, you know, a lot of us are at home now, we're cooking now. Just take a moment to say, how is my food made? How did it get here? What transportation did it take? Who shelved it at the grocery store? Who prepared it tonight? Was it myself? Because the more we bring mindfulness to our entire food system, the more we'll see the interconnectedness. And instead of this doomsday scenario of, oh, you know, climate change is something far away, it's 2100, it's polar bears in the Arctic, it's too distant, or it's too, you know, looming doom, I'm gonna shut down with fear. Know that your choices matter, your consumer choices matter. If we don't have a government right now that supports environmental practices, your dollar counts, your vote counts. So yeah, just know that food waste is a global problem, but transforming it into compost and rehabilitating our soil is a universal global solution. So thank you. Again, my name is Corinne Nicole. Let me see, I'm going to stop sharing and see if anyone has any questions. Okay, yeah.
So how do you do composting, you know, especially in apartments or places that don't have like a, you know, outside areas, you know, like I live in a townhome and I have no external areas, you know, so how can you do composting? Because I live in Houston and we don't have any, you know, citywide composting that I know of. And so how do you do that? Because I've seen composting in some places, and it can smell bad, but it's not, it depends, right? How you do it. But how you were talking about worms, that what you were mentioning last time? What you were saying?
Yes. So I'm gonna first say, since you are in a place that tends to have a bit more land than, say, New York, I would invite you to look into what urban farms you have, what local community gardens you have, because very frequently they will accept your food waste because it helps them create compost and helps them with all their agricultural practices. But to your specific question of how can I do it inside of my home?
Mm-hmm.
So there's really two ways depending on what size of house or what available real estate you have. So there's these larger bins, anaerobic digesters, that basically tilt. So you put your food waste in there, and an important aspect of composting is also adding high nitrogen items. So high nitrogen items look like paper towel, toilet paper rolls, hair, nails, dried plants, the dust you have from your floor. You mentioned this smell. Now, a compost that is kept well will have a lot of nitrogen on top. In fact, for every handful of food waste you want to have 3 handfuls versus of something nitrogen, because when you have that balance, it will cover up the smell and it will start to decompose faster than it can actually release anything that we'd be able to smell. Now the worms, which are a little adventurous, but essentially you have a plastic bin, you poke some holes, you take some newspaper, you spray it with water, you place it down, you put your food waste in, you put your worms in, your nitrogen items in, and it kind of does the rest. And in about 6 months, you have compost, which is a soil additive, and you can add it to your house plants. You can add it to, anything. You can resell it, you can give it away. So there's a couple of ways that you can do it, but I would be happy to point you to some resources. But I think the easiest and step one is just see what local community gardens are around you. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Thank you, Corinne.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said they couldn't hear me. Is my volume okay?
I can hear you well.
Okay, perfect. I don't think anyone else had a question, but yeah, thank you for answering. Yes, I talk with my hands very often, but okay, I will pass it over to you, Ian. Michael, I just want to thank you again, everyone who was a part of coordinating this. It was an honor to be here. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, be happy to answer.
Great, thanks.